Hey, what's up, everybody? John Highley here with Tactical Paintless Dent Removal and Tactical Dent Tools. Check out this body line dent on a Volkswagen front fender. You can see there it actually wiped out the body line and looks pretty nasty. But what I'm going to do here is actually start off by moving it with this large black rubber ball. And we're just going to get a couple pushes here, and I'm going to kind of keep you back here so you can see an overall view of exactly what I'm doing. What I'm actually looking to do with this ball is to literally put it right on that line and push the majority of it up with probably 2 to 10 pushes, depending on how the metal reacts. You can see here I've actually got a heat gun nailing it. So you can see me just making some hard pushes right there. You've seen a lot of it already driven up, okay? Now, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty here momentarily, and I'm going to give you a close-up here in just a moment. I just want to show you the overall view. I'm actually looking down that body line all the way through it because that's the way you have to repair body lines. You got to be looking through that body line like a rifle scope. You got to be able to see down it. You got to be able to see through it. So that was my decision on repairing it at that angle first. So now what I'm actually dropping in there is a soft tip tool. And same actual interchangeable tip tool there, which is a PDR Finesse double bend. But I've got a soft tip on it now. Because I was able to drive up a lot of that line, as you guys can see. But I had some areas that I would say had some holes in it that I'm going to try to fill with that soft tip. What you got to understand is that big ball to begin with is going to drive up a lot of it, but the little holes that are smaller than the push of that larger ball, I'm going to try to match them with a soft tip tool. That's exactly what I'm doing. If you guys already watched some of my previous tutorials, you guys know what a soft tip is. If not, it is about the size of, I don't know, the tip of your pinky, and it's got a rubber cap over top of it. They're actually chair tips, believe it or not. I still have never seen a chair with a little tiny rubber cover on it like that, but they are actually called chair tips. Now you can see here that after I had driven that line up, that big crown that was up there at the top, now it knows where to go. It knows where to flow. So I'm going to be able to do my crown work much better because it's flowing towards the body line that's already been driven up. I'd go as far to say that the body line is up, although we got some holes down below it and some little spots that need to be filled in. It's up enough where, as you guys can see how the crown's just literally melting out of that panel right there. I mean, I just went through it, and the crown is just falling towards that body line. Now, the thing is, if I did not drive that body line up, it wouldn't have a natural direction to flow into, and that's when you end up beating many more aggressive holes in the damage. And when I say holes, I mean little tiny divots or dents. What you guys are seeing right here are all soft tip pushes, and they're not aggressive whatsoever. So you can see here I actually switched out from that rubber tip. And I want to tell you guys that rubber tip that I had on there was the Edgy Tool Crown Killer tip. So if you go back and see the very first tool that I dropped that crown with, it's from Edgy Dent Tools, and that's a crown killer tip. Honestly, I like it. It's a little softer than the soft tips that I normally use in a lot of my videos. It's got a different, more of a spongy impact. All right, now you can guys see here I've actually switched out, and I've got what will be the equivalent of a bullet tip tool on the end there. And I'm actually moving right into doing some tiny little pushes. Now, when I say a bullet tip, what you guys got to imagine there is the tip of a bullet. It's literally you get like a little 22 shell or something like that. You look at the end of that tip. I would say this one's dialed a little bit smaller than that because over the years I've used it so much that it is literally kind of like, I would say it's reduced its size by 50%. we'll take a look at that here at the end of the tutorial. I'll go over all the tools that I used, and we'll take a look at the different tips. And just like I always do, y'all, I normally start out with a bigger tip for big metal movement or some glue pulling, and then we go down to the soft tips, and then we go to the bullet tips, and then we get into the sharp tips. Depending on the size of the little dots that I'm trying to fill in there is the size of the tip of the tool that I'm going to want to use. You guys can see here with an up close the pushes that I'm making here. Really strategic, really targeted, and really close to that body line. That's always the thing, is below and above the body line, the little lows that are left behind are usually, you're going to have to get in there with a much sharper tool to actually pinpoint that. Always remember that, guys. And then again, you don't want to start a big dent with a sharp tool, or else you're going to really destroy the paint. So you guys can see here, I'm working my way through it. And again, like at this point, I got the light tilted and I'm sitting on the ground. I'm looking up and through that damage. So my eyes are kind of like below, down here at the corner of the screen, looking up. So you can imagine my head being even below the camera. The camera is actually higher than where my head is currently. You see myself kind of working through, making little tiny strategic pushes. That's the key on this one. You really got to see your pushes when you're messing around a body line like this, because you guys will find that the closer you get to the line, the tighter that metal is. The tighter the metal is, the easier it is to make a push mark or a press mark in that panel. But everybody, you guys can see how quickly this thing is coming up for a dent that was through a body line. Now I'm back in. I'm using the, I think it's a 308 actually, what that's considered. But that's basically, it looks like a bullet, but it's a peak plastic knockdown by Dead-On Dent Tools. And they're some of my favorite. I bought about 50 of them, and I think I'm down to 7 or 8 of them. For some reason, they kind of get away from you. You can see here that I'm actually up and looking down. And see, again, I switched right to the crown killer. I'm in there killing that little wave that's in there in the center of the panel. That's the thing, guys. You got to be willing at any point. You got to be willing to identify what size the area that you want to take down is, and actually be able to identify what tool you need that's going to match the size of that metal movement. And I don't care if you're on the outside of the panel, like I am right here using that crown killer, or if you're on the inside of the panel pushing the dent out. I think I've talked about this plenty of times. You know, when you got a Audi coming on the outside of the panel, or you got a crown on the outside of the panel, if you went to the inside of the panel, the only thing that's a dent. You know, well, it just depends on what side of the panel you're working. You know, if you went on the inside of the panel and you looked at a dent, it looked like a crown or an outward bulge in the metal. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of the principles are the same, whether you're inside the panel or whether you're outside of the panel. Which is kind of cool because, you know, once you really learn the principles, that's the key to being able to grapple your way through anything. And this is one of the key principles. You know, you got to be willing to adjust. You got to be willing to adapt. I've seen so many people that will just sit there and work on something, one angle, and just nonstop one angle. But then they step back and it looks kind of nasty from the other angle. And you just got to realize, like, there's a point when you got to look at it and say, you know what? It's not getting better from this push angle, so I'm going to need to cross-check. And that is the point that I'm currently at right now. So you can see that I'm seeing much more stuff, much more action from this angle. And the top of that line really came out clean, y'all. That's the key to that crown work, you guys. I mean, literally, you guys can see how clean that crown work came out. And it was all about controlling the flow of that crown, driving up that body line, because the body line's always going to be the hardest. You guys see, I actually switched out to a Mark Zirkus PDR Finesse sharp tip tool. And again, because look at this, the little lows that I have in this panel are so tiny. They're so little that I'm going to go in there with a sharp tip and actually pinpoint them and pick them out. I'll tell you guys, I've worked with some of the best technicians in the world doing this stuff, and I've seen everybody that, well, I mean, I'm going to say everybody, but let's just say everybody ends up with a little bit of what I call picking the orange peel type work, where you're actually picking that orange peel clean. Especially on anything that has any kind of depth whatsoever in the damage, you're going to have, you're going to be doing some detail work. You're going to be doing some final work on that thing. So there you go. You can kind of see that I'm just hanging my head over and just taking a look down at it. I'm doing a little bit of knockdown work. There we go. We're really getting down to the nitty-gritty here, you guys. I mean, it is so close. And you can see that I'm just in here just finding them little tiny little spots. I think people discredit that as being super important, and I really should talk about it more. But being able to take one of them tiny little dots that you see in there and take your sharp tool and hit that thing right on the head perfectly, not to the left, not to the right, directly where you need to push, is a key not only to speed, but is a key to very high quality work. Is understanding where your tool is and being able to hit the exact spot. The beautiful thing about that is it's what makes our craft very hard and very difficult for people to learn, is this precision that we have to not only become good at it, but to become profitable at it and to become quick. So them kind of the profit and being fast and being good and all that stuff goes hand in hand. And you have to really be able to take the tip of that tool and put it exactly, not around it, not above it, not below it, exactly where you need to put it, and you need to push at that exact spot. There's no random pushes in paintless dent removal. Not when you're trying to do it at a very high level. All right, guys, you can see here that now I'm kind of working the top of that crown. We got some little subtle spots at the very top. And I'm just in here kind of giving it some little pushes. You can kind of see my angle here. Got my light way down low, very tight to the vehicle. And just giving it these tiny little pushes. Here we go. I'm going to get the knockdown out. Yes, knockdown work. You know, a lot of this, because this wasn't a giant dent, we went very quickly to the sharper tip tools and the bullet tip tools and the sharper tip knockdown. The smaller the dent, the faster you're going to get to the precision work. You guys can kind of see the way I'm standing. Got my head sideways, really tight at a tight angle, and twist pushing. Very little tiny pushes. I keep saying tiny pushes. Just little tiny pushes. And we are getting very close to a finish, you guys. Very close. There we go. A little bit of knockdown work. Now you guys can see I'm using the VIP knockdown that has a metal tip. And that's for even much better precision with that VIP knockdown in the metal tip. Very tiny little finishing pushes here. You see how far my light's got to be back? And now the blending hammer, full effect. That's when you know we're getting close right there. And you can see here, this is what we had to begin with, you guys. Nice little body line hit. Drilled down into the panel. You can check it out. You can really see that crown from right here, the crown that I was talking about. How we were able to actually knock that down with the crown killer. And voila, there it is, guys. All finished up, ready to be delivered. There you go. Take a look. I'll kind of move the light around a little bit here for you. It's kind of interesting matching that edge because a lot of that line had a little bow in it, and at the edge it tended to taper out. You guys can see a nice natural reflection here. I'll run you through the natural. And as usual, we'll take an outdoor shot as well. This is the way I look at it every time when I finish. I look at the natural reflection. When I bring it outside, sometimes you'll see something outside. You'll have to fix it outside. You'll bring it out, and there'll just be something from some angle that you may not have seen in your light or inside. It's like you're always checking it to the very last, until you get it outside and you get it finally set, and you really look through it at every angle. I mean, I'm always doing that. We'll go ahead and we'll check out the tools here momentarily, but you guys can see here. Wanted to let you guys check it out in a couple different angles. Dent came out good. Medium-sized dent. Hey, that's the way I fix it. That's the way I believe that you can fix it fast. You can fix it clean. And to check out our tools here, we definitely got the Tactical Knockdown, or the Tactical Blending Hammer. Right there is the crown killer on the end of that Ultra Knockdown, VIP Knockdown. I kind of missed the dent-on-dent tools there, the bullet knockdown. But you guys can see here a double bend. And I've got the old school green tool. You guys seen that in a lot of my videos. That's a double bend as well. And I'll show you guys, this is the size of that bullet tip. And you can kind of see the different size tips. And we did have a ball that we started it with. But above and beyond that, that's it, guys. That right there is your progression as I worked my way through this damage. And I hope you guys were able to learn something on this tutorial. And look forward to seeing you on that next one.